Hi everyone, I hope that this video finds you and your families safe and enjoying summer. This will function as my second State of the School update for this week. I have some information that I want to share with you. Our reopening planning committee did meet this week for the first time, and we made some headway on our plan for St. Monica Parish School. Just a little bit about the reopening committee. So on the reopening committee is myself, some members of our school leadership team. We have two parent representatives from our school committee, as well as a handful of faculty and staff at St. Monica's. It's a really great group of people, and everybody's expectation is that we at least start our school year in August on time in person. And so we're working through two different plans. Plan A is that we return to school in person at full capacity with very particular safety measures in place. And then kind of how I've been explaining it to the committee is then we kind of had this like octopus arm off of Plan A, which is synchronous learning. And what that means is how do we give access to our classroom learning experience if a student or a student's family member needs to be quarantined for a COVID-related illness. And I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. Plan B is that a state or local government shuts all schools down, similar to the fashion that happened last spring, and then identifying what the expectations are for our staff and our families for virtual learning. So those are the two plans that we're working through simultaneously. There's been a lot of school districts and schools that also kind of have like this plan C of either a split schedule or dual learning. We do not feel that that is necessary at this time. It may be in the future, but at this time, we're really focusing on our Plan A and Plan B. So today's updates really focus on Plan A, being back in school at full time, at full capacity as well, and just improving our safety measures and our illness prevention and response. So the following, and just forgive me a little bit, I have my notes because I don't want to misspeak. The first is mask wearing for kids. Also, please know that the following documents have been used to help guide the committee. CDC recommendations, recommendations from our North Shore Health Department, recommendations from Harvard Medical that released some information. DPI has released information as recommendations. And the key word are all of these are just recommendations. Nobody is committing to like, this is how schools should be run. It's local decision making. With that being said, I've had a number of parents in the St. Monica community who also function as physicians or nurses in our community hospitals reach out offering support. So I've had three parents, St. Monica parents that are either physicians or nurses that I've kind of just shared what these consensus items are for in-person learning and received feedback. Most of the feedback I received from them were in alignment. And if there were anything within our planning as a committee that didn't align, I'll bring that back to the committee next week when we meet. But mask wearing universally is highly endorsed by the medical community, highly endorsed by all of the resources that we have shared, but it has to look different for different subgroups of kids. So let me explain what we are thinking our expectations will be. Kids in grades 1 through 8 will be asked to wear masks while also maintaining 3 feet of distance at all times. While kids are eating, drinking, at gym class, or at recess, they will not need to wear their masks, so they will get a break. Kids in K3 will wear masks in common areas such as bathrooms, the church, hallways, but will not be required to wear them in class. However, they will be required to maintain 3 feet of distance. If you have a child in 3K and you would like them to wear a mask, they can, but we as a committee and as an educational team believe that it would be better for our kids to be able to just really focus on distancing, good hand washing, good just education on what it means to be healthy. And of course, this particular area has some mixed research on what is an appropriate age for somebody to wear a mask safely. So that is what we've decided as a committee. For students in grades K4 and K5, they will be asked to wear shields. And I will show you some pictures of those in my written correspondence on this plan. The school is going to do their very best to provide those if families cannot find them. I had somebody reach out to me willing to donate these items, so we're working through that process. But also, if you are willing to donate some of these items, that would be helpful as well. So again, kids in grades 1 through 8 will be asked to wear masks while also maintaining 3 feet of distance at all times. They will not have to wear them when eating, drinking, at gym class, at recess, so they will get a break. And then students in K3, it will be optional in your classroom based on parent preference. However, if they are in common spaces, they will be asked to wear a mask. So K3 students will need to bring a mask to school, but where they're wearing them is just in communal spaces. K4 and K5, so the face shield is what we're recommending for our K4 and K5 teachers and students to actually be wearing. And the reason being is that then they can see their teacher's face and we can see theirs. So much of our early childhood experience is watching language development and practicing language development through facial expression and speech. And so it was very clear that that would be very difficult wearing a mask, but wearing a face shield will also still protect from droplets if that occurs, while allowing students to see your face. Students in grades 1 through 8, if you prefer a face shield over a face mask, that is okay, but there needs to be a face covering. All adults in our building will be asked and required to wear masks at all times, with the exception of eating, drinking, or if they are outside. Temperature checks, so this is another area that we developed based on some research. Parents, we will be asking you to complete a digital symptom tracker. There's more to come on this. There's lots of different platforms on how this will function. And so we will continue to develop those things and then report back to you. As well as we're just asking that you have a reliable thermometer at your home to check temperatures of your children before they come to school if they are displaying symptoms. We will not be temperature checking at the start of school at this point. If we start to see an uptick of cases in our school community, that policy may change, but we are going to start with trusting that parents are symptom checking at home. And if there are symptoms, that they are then taking their child's temperature prior to them coming to school. So again, that component might be something that may change along the lines, but at this point, we believe that we can trust our parent community. Temperature checks of adults. So not to say that I don't trust my staff, but there is a liability there. So I need to make sure that staff are coming to school healthy so that they're not infecting our children. And so they will be asked to provide a temperature check when they check in the main office every day, and they will also conduct a symptom checker for themselves as well. And there's something that the committee was also made aware of. So I asked for their endorsement of a priority account proposal that I gave the school committee. I just wanted to let you know that I made this proposal to the school committee for the following options. So I've asked for access to funds to install air conditioning units in all of the classrooms to improve air quality, but then also for more comfort, as we're requiring masks or highly encouraging that the subgroups of kiddos that I have expressed to you are wearing masks for illness prevention. We know that this building can get stifling, especially in the spring, but then also when students return in August. So I know that air conditioning was something that continues to come up as a potential need for St. Monica Parish School. And given the circumstances, I felt that it was appropriate to try to get the ball rolling. So individual air conditioning units is part of the proposal. Also securing PPE for all of our staff and backups for students if needed. This is including medical grade equipment, temperature checkers, the appropriate just gear in the event that we do need to isolate a child, and then staffing and supplying our isolation centers. So many of the documents that I described in the beginning of this video are suggesting that we have isolation spaces in the event that a student or staff member becomes symptomatic. And that would require appropriate PPE. It would require some sort of like video monitoring so that we're not exposing being in and out of that space. And those type of equipment materials were included in my proposal. Also in the proposal was technology for students, from Chromebooks to access their learning in the event that we do need to go virtual. Currently, St. Monica's is not one-to-one. The idea is to get there. Unfortunately, we won't be able, even if this proposal were to be approved, we wouldn't be able to start the year being one-to-one with technology due to supply and demand. Many schools are in the same situation that St. Monica Parish School is in, and so there is a delay in getting those Chromebooks here. The last part of the proposal was securing equipment to do synchronous learning. So to be able to give students access to their classroom through live streaming in the event that they or a family member have a COVID-19 related illness and need to stay home or stay quarantined. And so that proposal was submitted. The school committee is reviewing it. They're asking really good questions to make sure that we're being good stewards of that fund. And I'm hopeful that if not all of the things in that proposal will be approved, the majority will, so that we can have a safe and functional return to school. Synchronous learning. So I also just want to kind of discuss that a little bit. So we believe as a committee and as St. Monica school community that we want to be able to provide access to student learning into their live classrooms in the event that there's a COVID-19 related illness. At this time, we are not giving the option that you may just go virtual because you choose to go virtual with St. Monica's. The only access point to virtual learning while we are in person in session will be if you, the child, or somebody in the household has COVID-19 symptoms and or have been tested positive. And so there will be more information around what that looks like, how students will access that, what information will need to be provided to the school for the students to be able to access their live streaming classroom. And please note that it's not going to be like, here's a computer and you're going to be on the computer for 8 hours. Your live stream option will happen during core content areas such as literacy or math in the event that you have to stay home because of a COVID-19 related illness. Again, there will be very specific guidelines on what's expected in that scenario from staff and from families, and it will be outlined in like a one-page document that you will receive prior to school starting. So 3 feet of spacing, you may have heard me mention that while I was talking about mask wearing. There's some newer research out there suggesting that 3 feet is appropriate if 6 feet can't happen. It's still that 6 feet is the most ideal. Given our enrollment and given the widely suggested from parents in the parent survey and from our staff, we really want to be back in person. We want to be able to do it safely, but it's a priority to be at least start and try to be back in person. To be able to do that without having like that plan C that I mentioned earlier, where there's half of the school comes one day or 2 days and then the other half is virtual learning and vice versa then for the other 2 days, and then there's like a day break in between. We do not see that as a feasible option for St. Monica. It's not impossible. If we have to do that at some point, we can, but we just don't feel at this point it's worth really exploring because it's not what parents, families, and staff really want. With that being said, the committee is comfortable based on the research suggesting 3 feet of spacing if 6 feet is not allowed. Some of our enrollment is beautifully high, and that's a wonderful part of our community, but our classrooms are not as large, and we do have additional spaces that we can use. So we will certainly try to use those spaces first to endorse 6 feet, but we just can't promise the 6 feet. What we can confidently say is that we can maintain 3 feet of space. So another thing that the committee is exploring, again, this is not something that I can today commit to, but I will be able to commit to next week during the State of the School, is a 4.5-day week. And what that would mean is that students would come to school Monday through Friday, but there would be an early release on Friday. The purpose of that early release on Friday would be for the opportunity for our maintenance team to do more deep cleaning, of the school. It's a sacred time for teachers to plan and prepare. It also provides a sacred time for teachers to check in on students that may be home quarantined and have been accessing the classroom virtually. So there's a multi-layer purpose to that. You know, it's like it will be about 3 hours of time. We just have to look at scheduling and instructional minutes. What I really want to emphasize is that if we can do this and still maintain our instructional minute requirements from the Archdiocese of Milwaukee, it will not be a fun Friday. I know that that is kind of like a thing in schools where if you have a half day, that like Friday is just a lost day, that kids are just hanging out. We don't have any time to just hang out. We have some significant grounds to recover from being out of school last spring. And so it will be my expectation as the school leader that teachers are teaching on Friday. It's not watching movies, it's not having extra recesses, it's teaching on Friday. And also to maintain a schedule where students are gaining access to their core content areas. So if I have math in the afternoon, I'm not always just missing math on early release, but I do have some instruction in math on Fridays, some instruction in literacy. It won't be able to be the full amount of time that Monday through Thursday hold, but they will still have those classes. So please know that making sure that our academic rigor is maintained, and then also just kind of emphasized in this time, it's on my forefront, and I'm definitely working with teachers on it. The last component of our in-person plan that was developed is what school liturgy will look like. I just want to emphasize that this is a really important part of who we are at St. Monica's. We are a Catholic school and we are a Catholic community. And so maintaining our Catholic identity in whatever scenario is brought to us is vitally important to the success of not just our school, but our community. With that being said, I did meet with the fathers to discuss what school liturgy will look like this year. And as of now, this is what we are thinking as starting the school year. So school liturgy will still occur on Wednesday mornings. We will have to follow the church guidelines on occupancy. So what that allows the school to do is to have half of our school attend in person in liturgy, and half of our school will attend virtually through live streaming to their classrooms. And that equipment that is needed to be able to do that is part of that priority fund proposal. Teachers will be expected to develop reflections and engagement strategies for those classrooms that are live streaming, because it will be a little bit of a interesting experience for students to be experiencing liturgy in their classroom versus in the church. And so we want to just make sure that it's still remaining a sacred time, but also a time of reflection and understanding about what the readings are about, what Father's homily entails, and how it applies to their life. Masks will be encouraged during that time as well, because it is a communal space. And appropriate spacing will also occur. Students will still be able to participate in the liturgy, so participating in the readings, writing the petitions, and that will be an important part of maintaining our Catholic identity as a school. So those are the updates that I have for you today. I am committed to continuing to build our plan. Please know that I started July 1st, and this has been the only thing really that I've been working on. I really strongly believe in the community. I believe that we will come out of this stronger. I believe that it's also all about mindset. There's so much rich opportunity in a crisis like this that we can certainly maximize. I'm also committed to the safety of my staff and to your children. And although as a parent and as an educator and coming from a dual working family, I totally understand the sense of wanting to just be back to normal. But we can't just be back to normal. We're kind of bypassing that. We will come as close as humanly possible, but it is my job as your school leader and as a parent to make sure that our #1 priority is student safety and staff safety. So please know that that is on my forefront. I'm working really hard every day and night, making sure that I'm well versed and voiced in what the constant changes are. but this community is beautifully enthusiastic. I'm so confident in our ability to be able to return to school safely. And I just want to say thank you for your patience. Thank you for your participation in the survey. That was so wonderful. I was very pleasantly surprised at the over 240 responses that I received. And I promise you, I read every single one. I shared all of that data with our reopening committee. They used it to make the changes and to make the plan that I've outlined to you so far. And then also another component that will be coming out to you soon is a student survey. So please, if you have a kiddo that is able to complete that survey, that will help us as we continue to build our community for the fall. So I know that some of the things that I talked about may spike a little bit of controversy within our community, but please know that none of these things were made in isolation. None of these decisions were made in isolation. They have been endorsed by the parent medical experts in our community that have reached out to me. They are fully endorsed by our reopening committee that's representative of our staff and of the parent community. And we really, our main goal is plan A, being back and being safe. So there's a lot more work to be done, and I will continue to release information to our plan as it comes. To this date, I'm not going to give a final date of the entire plan will be submitted to the families by this point. We're not quite there yet. We need to continue to plow away at this, and things are fluid and changing constantly. So I want to make sure that whatever information we're sending and committing to is information that we know it has stayed pretty, it's been pretty consistent among even other changes. With that being said, if there's any additional questions or concerns based on the items that I've shared with you in this video today, please feel free to reach out and I will do my best to answer any questions that you may have. There will also be a one-page document being emailed to you today outlining exactly what I've discussed with you in this video. I will do another State of the School update next week. In the meantime, continue to talk with your children about good hand washing. If you are out in the community, please start to teach about mask wearing if you have not already. The more pre-teaching we can do on some of these items, just on spacing and hand washing, and if I'm feeling sick, what do I do? Those types of things we can do as a family prior to school starting will allow teachers to really be able to jump into the curriculum and rebuild some relationships so that they have a successful start to the school year. So I'm confident that you probably are already doing all of those things, but just a friendly reminder that if you aren't, please start. We appreciate your support. We appreciate your enthusiasm. And as always, we would certainly appreciate any prayers that you can direct to myself or to our reopening committee. Stay safe, and I will see you next week.